eyebrows. So how's that possible?
So when I had just moved to LA and I was testing for a show that ended up actually...
The judge in the It Ends With Us case has just denied Blake Lively, raising serious questions about altered communications, including whether copies were changed or emojis removed, and whether the New York Times participated alongside Blake Lively's publicists in shaping the narrative. As she now seeks more time to amend her complaint while implying that additional names may soon be added, possibly Jed Wallace, Brian Friedman, or even Stephanie Jones, a move that many find ironic given that Blake previously refused to grant Justin Baldoni's team an extension even after his lawyer's house burned down. And this development has shattered the once golden image of Blake Lively as America's sweetheart, transforming her flawless public persona into a scandal-ridden controversy that began when she accused her co-star and director Justin Baldoni of harassment. A claim that quickly unraveled as enthusiastic text messages surfaced praising his work and even appearing flirtatious, casting doubt on her allegations while crew members came forward alleging Blake exerted excessive control on set, overriding intimacy coordinators, directing scenes herself, manipulating scripts, and reshaping production to suit her agenda, making her accusations increasingly contradictory, all while public support from Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift is now being re-examined, amid allegations that Blake fabricated evidence, including doctored text messages, altered timestamps, and entirely manufactured conversations designed to portray Justin as the villain, a gamble that collapsed in court when Blake reportedly confessed to altering messages in an effort to strengthen her case, triggering a swift and brutal fallout as Hollywood distanced itself, endorsements vanished, projects dried up, and former allies fell silent, with insiders now claiming Blake wasn't just performing on screen but crafting her entire life as a carefully controlled act, leaving this scandal poised to redefine her career and expose one of the most explosive celebrity meltdowns of the year. These developments could significantly change the trajectory of the case, not necessarily harming Justin, but potentially forcing shifts in legal strategy, team structure, and public positioning as the situation continues to evolve, with many critical decisions now hanging on how the court addresses these issues. And while updates will follow, a deeper question has emerged that many observers are asking: how did this spiral so far out of control? And how did Ryan and Blake allow it to reach this stage? Because from Blake's perspective, recent revelations make her behavior easier to understand, particularly after the full Forbes interview shed light on her upbringing, her mother's influence, and a pattern of entitlement, control, and rigid demands for authority that suggest she believed she could shape reality itself, making it unsurprising that she worked tirelessly to spin the narrative in her favor, especially considering how she was long portrayed as Hollywood's eternal sweetheart, the effortlessly charming blonde with perfect timing, flawless branding, and a fairy tale marriage that captivated fans, an image that has now collapsed in dramatic fashion, effectively detonating and transforming the It Ends With Us set into ground zero for one of the most aggressive power struggles Los Angeles has seen in years. As insiders describe Blake arriving not merely as an actress but as a central authority figure armed with a plan to influence every department, seeking control over directing choices, editing decisions, script rewrites, and even production logistics. With Sony executives initially dazzled by her star power and box office value granting her extraordinary latitude, allowing edits to circulate with her digital fingerprints, overnight script changes that subtly but consistently redirected emotional arcs toward her character, and reshoots that ballooned the budget while dissenting voices quietly disappeared from call sheets, leaving morale fractured and tensions simmering beneath the surface, as Justin struggled to preserve artistic integrity while managing delays, conceding to alternate blocking, absorbing endless notes, and facing increasingly serious allegations, including claims that he endangered her safety during a stunt, a situation he later described as trying to steer a ship while someone else seized the wheel. Until tensions peaked with the so-called fat-shaming incident, where a late-night, medically necessary question regarding Blake's weight for harness limits tied to Justin's documented spinal condition was reframed as malicious, triggering an explosive reaction, intensified once Ryan Reynolds became involved and gossip blogs eagerly ran with a simplified villain narrative that excluded critical medical context. But even that controversy paled in comparison to what followed when Blake, determined to solidify her victim narrative and secure leverage, allegedly doctored text message chains by altering timestamps, removing emojis, inserting strategic pauses, and fabricating exchanges before submitting them as evidence. A move that proved catastrophic once digital forensics exposed the manipulation unmistakably, culminating in a quiet but devastating courtroom admission that shattered her credibility in an instant, transforming her public image from beloved star to industry warning sign, igniting immediate fallout across Hollywood as studios reassessed risks. All eyes went silent and Sony reportedly convened crisis meetings, signaling a turning point that may permanently reshape how power, celebrity, and accountability collide behind the scenes. The fallout intensified as studio insurance carriers reportedly issued warnings about fraud clauses. Streaming platforms quietly removed splash screens featuring Blake's image, and brand partners froze advertising campaigns while citing the need to evaluate emerging information, making it suddenly unfashionable to be associated with the Blake Lively brand. As Justin responded both legally and publicly by filing a countersuit that named Blake in the New York Times for allegedly repeating her claims without proper verification, while his legal team released behind-the-scenes footage showing the two laughing between takes, hugging at rap, and exchanging camera notes. A reminder that Hollywood may forgive many missteps but resents feeling misled, prompting even longtime allies to distance themselves as Taylor Swift, once Blake's most visible supporter, reportedly told friends she was taking space. While Ryan Reynolds faced uncomfortable scrutiny over whether his late-night script tweaks were acts of loyalty or quiet complicity, with one PR insider warning that the couple's brand was hemorrhaging goodwill at TikTok speed, all as the cast and crew of It Ends With Us watched their passion project unravel. Its release date drifting into uncertainty, finishing funds at risk, and agents' calls about future work met with polite silence, summed up by a veteran cinematographer who remarked that they filmed a story about love conquering all only to learn how quickly love becomes collateral damage, sparking broader industry debate over whether Blake's saga was an isolated implosion or a symptom of a system that grants stars unchecked influence. Because while power flexing is common, forging legal evidence crosses a line likened by one showrunner to bank fraud for the ego, while others blamed studios for handing out producer credits without teaching boundaries, allowing responsibility to evaporate the moment carte blanche is granted, as social media transformed the meltdown into a morality play with loyalists crying sexism and critics countering that gender does not excuse perjury. Meme factories remixing Gossip Girl voiceovers onto courtroom sketches as hashtags trended worldwide, and risk assessors quietly updated actuarial tables projecting negative value for future Blake Lively projects, prompting early whispers of redemption strategies involving charity tours, emotional interviews, or even a confessional memoir, all stalled until the dust settles. Yet the shockwaves now extend beyond one fallen star as studios rewrite protocols for digital evidence. Journalists face renewed pressure to corroborate every claim after the Times controversy, and intimacy coordinators gain leverage after witnessing how quickly safeguards collapse under celebrity authority, while Justin's camp frames him as David facing a Goliath of influence, with a victory potentially salvaging his reputation and setting a precedent against weaponized fabrication, and a loss reinforcing a bleak message that truth bends beneath a bright enough spotlight, leaving Blake suspended between crisis management and existential reckoning. Described by friends as shaken yet defiant as she drafts statements that carefully avoid full contrition, an irony worthy of cinema itself, as the actress known for playing characters who bend reality becomes the antagonist in her own plot twist. And although Hollywood loves a comeback, it demands genuine humility first. Something still uncertain as America's former sweetheart lingers in reputational limbo while the industry rewrites her legacy without her input. A cautionary lesson etched deeply across town that in an industry built on fiction, only the truly reckless attempt to forge reality itself. A context that makes the so-called smoking gun all the more significant, because critics note that early tensions coincided with overlapping production timelines, including Deadpool rewrites that subtly mocked Justin while It Ends With Us was still in early prep, fueling hostility from the start as observers dissected Blake's text messages for flirtation or passive aggression, questioning whether unseen material exists or whether the absence of a decisive bombshell explains why none was presented on day one, with industry chatter now focused on an amended complaint expected Friday. Though skepticism remains strong since a truly definitive piece of evidence would logically have surfaced immediately rather than after weeks of damage control, they are expected to finally drop whatever they believe will give them the strongest advantage. Because this is their moment and their only real shot to reclaim control of the narrative, which explains why they asked for more time and why it appears they are aggressively digging for anything they can use to push back and declare, "You doubted us, but here it is," flooding the record with additional texts, messages, and fragments they hope will change public perception. Yet the problem remains glaringly obvious. Because if such a decisive smoking gun truly existed, there is no logical reason it would not have been revealed from the very beginning. Instead of allowing the situation to spiral this far out of control and cause such extensive reputational damage. And even if they do manage to surface something mildly inappropriate involving Justin at this late stage, it likely won't shift the outcome. Because Blake Lively has already lost so much credibility and public goodwill that the impact would be minimal, making her dramatic downfall one of the most sobering cautionary tales Hollywood has seen in years. A stark warning to celebrities who come to believe they are untouchable. Yet history shows this is not the first time a star has hit rock bottom, as figures like Robert Downey Jr. and Winona Ryder once faced career-threatening collapses only to claw their way back through accountability, reinvention, and time, raising the inevitable question of whether Blake can engineer a similar redemption arc. Though the path ahead is far steeper, because fabricating or manipulating evidence is not a forgivable misstep easily brushed aside, especially in an era dominated by instant news cycles, viral scrutiny, and permanent digital records, where public memory is long and forgiveness is costly. But even so, Hollywood's appetite for comebacks remains strong. Provided humility replaces defensiveness and image control gives way to genuine accountability, meaning a version of Blake 2.0 is not impossible, just extraordinarily difficult. And for now, the industry remains on high alert, keenly aware that this controversy has exposed how fragile even the most carefully curated public persona truly is, leaving the final question unresolved. Will Blake find a way to reclaim her place in the spotlight? Or has her fairy tale reached its irreversible ending? A verdict that only time will deliver as every twist, turn, and headline continues to unfold under relentless scrutiny.